Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Massachusetts in America once again, and we're going to revisit a brewery that I only introduced you to for the first time a couple of videos back, but I was very impressed with that beer and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this one turns out as well. So for this review we are going to go back to Charlton and we're having a look at my second beer from Treehouse Brewing Company. This one is the Green. It's another New England IPA, this time coming in at 7.5% ABV, and this one is supposed to be pretty good. I was really impressed with the Julius. I was kind of surprised actually at how sort of light and drinkable it was, but from what I gather this one is a little bit more kind of heavy and amped up, if you like, so very curious to see how it turns out actually. A huge thank you in this video once again to Chris Contreras, an American guy living down in Belgium. He very kindly sent me a box of 4 beers from his recent trip over to New England, and 3 of them of course were these Treehouse beers, so you will see another review from these guys in the next couple of videos actually. But that guy has sent me some absolutely ridiculous beer over the last couple of months, so you know, a huge thank you to him. It's massively appreciated and cool to finally get around to trying this brewery actually. So I really hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer, and I'm very curious to see how it turns out. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Treehouse Brewing Company before. You will see one more fairly soon, and hopefully I can add more beyond that in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to very regularly, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Treehouse Brewing. So Treehouse Brewing are based in Charlton in Massachusetts, which is about halfway between Hartford in Connecticut to the southwest and Boston in Massachusetts on the coast to the northeast. But the company was founded by 4 friends back in 2011. So this is Dean Rowan, Nate Lemire, Damien Gaudreau and Jonathan Weisbach. From what I understand, I'm not sure if Jonathan Weisbach is actually still involved in the company, but Dean started off with a background as a plumber, Jonathan is a graphic designer, Damien co-owns and runs a gym, and then Nate was a construction manager. And the guys had homebrewed together from around 2008 in Nate's kitchen, but then they soon moved to a small 2.5 acre farm in Brimfield, and this had a treehouse on the edge of it, and that was what would inspire the name of the brewery. But the brewery continued to grow over the coming years, and they moved in 2013 to Corran Farm in Monson, which was owned by one of the founders' families, and there they expanded their capacity from 150 to 900 US barrels of beer, or in proper measurements, the metric system, 570 litres per brew to 3,400 litres per brew, and they also opened up a tap room on this site as well. I will warn you in the video, I always make fun of the American measurement system because this whole pint quart thing that they have just doesn't make sense to me at all. But in 2016 the company bought land in Charlton and they planned the construction of a 53,000 square foot brewery. Again, in normal measurements this one is 5,000 square metres. But the brewery went on to open in May 2017 and it can produce 60,000 US barrels of beer per year, or 9.5 million normal people litres. But this previous brewery, the previous site they had in Monsoon, is now home to their barrel aging program, and they also plan to experiment a little bit with sours from what I understand as well. But over the last few years they've added a larger outdoor space and another mezzanine level in the brewery, and in 2019 they purchased a farm in Woodstock, Connecticut, and they apparently plan to experiment further with barrel aging there, and also open fermentation and sour beers as well. They're going to grow some fruits and things like that from what I understand as well. But Nate is the head brewer, and according to Untappd they've produced around 280 different types of beer as of October 2019 when I'm filming this review for you. So yeah, as a lot of you watching this channel probably know, these guys are one of the very hyped New England craft beer breweries. I mean, these guys are one of the ones that we would hear about over here in Europe quite a lot. Treehouse, Trillium, Hill Farmstead, I guess, as well, and then the Alchemist are probably the big ones that we would all know about, and I guess Other Half are probably quite well known from down in New York now. There's a lot of stuff coming out about the New York craft breweries these days as well. But oddly enough, this is one that's I've never seen it in Scotland, and I've never seen it here in Sweden either, or even across the water in Copenhagen. I think it's come across for a few beer festivals and stuff like this, but in terms of actually being available in shops and stuff, apart from perhaps around beer festivals and things, you are not going to find this beer. I understand that Treehouse do sell everything very, very locally actually. So yeah, one of the really hyped New England breweries, and that's what makes it very cool to finally be able to review one of these beers for you. I might get the chance to go and visit the brewery next year in 2020, so if I do, I'll film a little out and about video for you and put that up on the channel as well. But yeah, that's all you need to know about Treehouse Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up with all the latest goings on, and if you're interested in all the different beers that they've done, I would recommend that you look at the Rate Beer and Untappd pages as well. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer then and see how we get on. So yeah, really nicely presented in the can once again. Very similar to how the Julius was, just, you know, a different colour. And I think I said that in the last video too, that these cans are very similar, you know, they just basically change the colour of them. But it says on the back here, we're excited that you're holding Treehouse Brewing Company's Galaxy Hop-Filled American IPA Green. Green is a massively juicy beer filled with distinctive notes of pineapple, orange sorbet and tangerine. It makes no apologies as it coats the palate with intense hop goodness, and it's the result of our uncompromising dedication to fresh, progressive, delightful beer. We hope you enjoy it with laughter, good cheer, and in the company of those you love. Treehouse Brewing Company. And there you can see on the back of the can, there is a Treehouse Brewing symbol. And, you know, if you have a little look at that, you can see it's not quite as obvious on this one as it was on the Julius can, but you can see there is that treehouse symbol on the back there too, which is really cool. It almost looks a little bit like the Whomping Willow out of Harry Potter now that I think about it. But yeah, nicely presented beer, this one. Curious that they say on the back that it's oranges and tangerines from Galaxy, because to be honest, I've always felt that Galaxy is quite passion fruity, but it's also, you know, the pineapple I would agree with Galaxy Hop right enough, but we'll talk about that a little bit when we actually taste the beer. This one is a 1 US pint can, 473 millilitres using real measurements, and yeah, so let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. The Green, a 7.5% New England IPA. Let's see how we get on. So yeah, as I said before, the Julius that I tried before was very kind of light and quite wet in its mouthfeel actually, so I'm curious to see whether this one, being a little bit heavier in alcohol, will be a little bit more thick and creamy. I've had New England IPAs from, you know, around Washington DC. I've had them from Chicago, quite a few of them from Chicago actually, and that kind of area up there, the start of the Midwest. I've had a few from I've had some Trillium ones, and I've had the Alchemist beers too. Hill Farmstead, I guess, is the other one that I need to check out quite soon, but that'll maybe be something that will come on the channel next year. But when there's more malt content in this one, when the alcohol's higher, I'm very curious to see whether this one feels a little bit thicker than the Julius. Not that there was anything wrong with that, of course, but it was just strange that it was so light in its mouthfeel and things. I didn't expect that from it at all. But as you can see with this beer, this one's poured a really nice kind of bright, it's almost like a kind of peach juicy, pineapple-y juice colour, this one. It really is really quite nice. There's about a 1/3 finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head on this one, maybe a little tinge creamy. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and you can see a little bit of the carbonation just going up towards the bottom of the head there, but it's not overly active in terms of the carbonation here. But, you know, it looks pretty nice. Nothing particularly surprising about this beer when you consider that it is a New England IPA, but definitely one of the ones that is a bit lighter in colour actually than I've come across before. And I think, you know, usually when it comes to the New England IPAs, I think it's the yeast can actually have quite an impact on the colour from what I understand of these beers, and of course what malts you use as well is the other thing. But yeah, nice looking beer this, so let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. Oh yeah, this one definitely comes across quite differently to the Julius. That's really nice actually. So straight away with this one you can really smell that it is just thicker, you know. Probably this one is kind of what I would have expected the Julius to be honest, in terms of its aroma. So the Julius was a very nice surprise, but we'll try not to mention it too much. We'll try and focus on this particular beer. But yeah, that comes across really nicely. Straight away with this beer you can smell Again, it has a little bit of that sort of farmhousey quality, and that was one thing that I mentioned in the last video too, that I wasn't used to, until I tried the Heady Topper, the New England IPAs that I was having from the likes of Cloudwater and Wylam and all of this in England, and then the ones from Stigbergets and stuff like that, and a couple of other breweries over here in Scandinavia. You know, they're a lot more creamy and kind of sweet, whereas the original ones from New England do have a little bit of that farmhousey, almost saison type thing to them, and a lot of that comes from the yeast, and you can smell a little bit of that in this beer. But this one really has a nice, the white bready qualities that you get out of this one are nice and thick. It comes across as being quite wheaty actually, and it's a little bit, it does smell just a little bit thicker, to be honest. Lots of oaty creaminess in there, and I would say that this one, to me, if you take the aroma in quite deeply with this, you really can get a little bit of a nice biscuity quality in there as well. This is the malt base in this one, and of course the yeast is going to be contributing to that as well. It smells really nice. You do get a little bit of that slightly farmhousey, rusticy kind of thing out of this beer as well. It's not vegetal, it's not herbal, it's not grainy, it's kind of a mix of all three of those sort of things. But I really like that. I think that's beautiful. It's a lovely smelling beer. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, nothing surprising about the malt base there, but you will notice with this one it comes across as smelling very, very smooth actually. On the hoppy side of things then, you've got a lovely big floral aromaticity to this one, and that's what you expect with Galaxy. Galaxy, if I remember rightly, Galaxy's around like 15-16% alpha acid. It's a bit of a beast, and like I said, I've always found that Galaxy gives you some lovely kind of passion fruity and pineapple-y notes. It's mainly, I always found that it was mainly passion fruity, but it would give you like a little bit of an apricot-y, sort of pineapple-y complexity. And you can really pick that out in here as well. But the green side of the hops for me really leans towards the kind of big floral aromatic and almost slightly spicy note. There is a bit of grassiness in there, a little tiny hint of earthiness, but the green side of the hops really leans towards that big floral aromatic note. On the fruity side of things, it's a lovely, it really is quite a lovely, juicy, fruity, it's definitely got a little bit of that slightly darker passion fruit in the background, but it leans a little bit more towards the kind of pineapple-y kind of notes. There's definitely pineapple in there. I want to say there's a little bit of an apricot, maybe like papaya or something like that as well. It really is quite nice. I can see why they might say it's a little bit orangey, because it does have a little bit of that kind of orangey citrus to it as well. But I wonder if that will kind of come out in the flavour. I've always found that the flavours you get from Galaxy are a little bit stronger. I mean, I do wonder if there is another hop in there as well, because the thing is, I've always found Galaxy is very, very pungent. I mean, the two hops that I would always compare would be Simcoe and Galaxy. Simcoe's a very kind of almost milky, creamy sort of passion fruity note you get out of that, whereas I always found Galaxy is just a little bit more pungent and strong, if you like, and it's also got a little bit of a complexity to it, whereas Simcoe is very, very straight up in the passion fruity notes. But yeah, I can see why they're saying there's a bit of orange in here, but maybe that's just, the power of suggestion or whatever. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So yeah, it's a bit of a two-sided, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, if you like, when they put tasting notes on the back of the can and things like that. But yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time and just have a go at the aroma of this beer. But this one comes across as really smooth, quite a creamy smelling New England IPA, and juicy and fruity as well. But without further ado then, let's have a taste of this beer and just see how we get on. This one is the Green, a New England IPA, coming in at 7.5% from Treehouse Brewing Company in Charlton in Massachusetts over in America. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, a huge thank you to Chris once again. Cheers. Yeah, that this one is definitely kind of more what I was expecting from Treehouse. This one, obviously it is heavier in alcohol and things like that. I think, I'm trying to remember, I think most of the New England IPAs that I would drink in Europe are around the sort of 6.8% or 7% kind of thing. So this one is a little bit heavier in alcohol compared to what we would get from like Steakberts and things like that. It's quite often that you'll get New England IPAs around 6.5% here. Amazing Haze, for example, from Steakberts is around 6.5%, and I'm sure that Opigård's New Sweden IPA is roughly about the same. So yeah, this one is a bit heavier in alcohol, but this is kind of what I was expecting. I really like this one. Big thumbs up to Treehouse Brewing once again. They actually said the reason that they called this beer green was because the wort, when they were brewing it, looked green because it had that many hops in it. But I will say straight away, this is a lovely example of the style. Where to start with this one then? Let's try and break down the flavour a little bit. So straight away you're going to feel that lovely, you're really going to feel that lovely pale malty, kind of white bready and wheaty quality. That just blankets the middle of your tongue there. And the thing I'm really noticing about these Treehouse beers is just how smooth they are. The smoothness and creaminess that you get out of these beers is really quite nice. Again, I'm thinking with this one that the creaminess isn't quite as thick as you'll get in some of the European ones, or even some of the other ones that I had from Chicago and things like that. So that was kind of interesting too. The creaminess, the oaty sweetness and creaminess is sitting there in the middle of the palate. If you go to the very centre of your tongue, you've got a nice... you really do have a nice little bit of a biscuity malt in there as well, which is interesting. But the malt base is very straight up, very smooth, and this one does definitely feel a little bit thicker than the Julius does, but when it's higher in alcohol, that's a bit of a given. But I really like this beer. I'm wondering if it is just single hopped with Galaxy actually. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, this is absolutely beautiful. I mean, I can see straight away why this is a beer and a brewery that is very, very highly regarded actually. I'd love to see, one of the things I've said this about a couple of the breweries in Sweden recently, it'd be really cool to see Treehouse have a go at a West Coast IPA. They probably, if they've done 280 beers, I would assume that at some point they have, but I'd love to see how these guys, the New England IPA breweries would do it, doing an old school West Coast IPA, and then likewise it would be cool to see how some of the Californian West Coast breweries are doing with the, would do it the New England IPAs, and I think they are starting to kind of mix it up a little bit and try different things. But this is a beautiful, beautiful style of beer, and I mean, I have been saying on the channel recently, there's so many people doing the hazy IPAs that I've been missing the West Coast ones, but when you try ones like this, it does kind of keep your interest in the style a little bit. The New England IPAs have stayed around for a good couple of years. I mean, these beers have been fairly solid, pardon me, and been around since like 2015, 2016, whereas the West Coast IPAs were around for a good bit longer before that. But then we had black IPAs as well, which you can find them if you look for them, but they're not quite as prominent in the market as they were at one stage. But then, as I say, I'd been complaining about the New England IPAs, that everyone was doing these, but then when you go and try things like this, it really just kind of keeps your interest in the style actually. So really nice to be able to try this beer, I have to say. Again, thank you to Chris for that. But yeah, lovely big smooth malt base to this one. Not doing anything surprising. I mean, in terms of the undertones and stuff you get, there's maybe a teeny little bit of a woody note in there, but I'm finding the further you go into the aftertaste with this beer, it really does kind of sweeten up a little bit, and the oaty creaminess comes out very, very nicely in this one. The oats, I think, are a bit more present in this than the Julius that I had before, and that little bit of biscuity malt, that little touch of sweetness that it has in the middle of the palate is also a really nice touch as well. In terms of the Hoppy side of things then. Back corners of the palate you can pick up a teeny little bit of earthiness, but that quickly smooths out, and as you move further along the sides of your tongue you get a lovely big floral aromatic, almost spicy quality to the beer, but at the same time it really is quite smooth. I mean, this beer isn't going to blow the head off you in terms of IBUs, but it does have just a little bit of that slightly spicy quality in the on the side of your tongue, but then round the front curve of the palate it just mellows out a little bit and it's a little bit kind of more lighter and grassy, if you like. So we'll look at the fruity side of things now. As I always say, the fruity side of a beer always comes out in that little oily bubble that you get behind the kind of front curve of your tongue. Yeah, that's kind of interesting, that. I think in the flavour, you know, I really could smell the kind of oranges and tangerines in the aroma actually, but in terms of the flavour, I think no. My original kind of thing that I said about Galaxy kind of holds firm here. If you go to the back of that oily bubble, for me, it's definitely got a little bit of that darker kind of passion fruity note to it. As you move further forward from that, it starts to evolve into a more. There's maybe like a. It's definitely kind of apricot-y. It's also got a good bit of like a kind of pineapple-y note as well. It's probably more pineapple-y than apricot-y, to be honest. The apricot's maybe just a little bit of a sort of subtlety. Maybe there's a little bit of a papaya with further forward you come on this on the tongue as well. Maybe right, you know, on the very tip almost there could be a little bit of tangerine or something. But again, maybe power of suggestion in there. But you know, this is a nice smooth tropical IPA, this one. I think that's probably a good way to kind of sum this one up. It's a nice big smooth tropical New England IPA rather than anything else, and I do like the fact that this beer, this particular one, has just a little bit more of a kind of hoppy presence to it. Or no, not a more hoppy presence, it's just got a bigger kind of thicker malt base to it, if you like. That's kind of more what hits the spot for me. It's just having a good level of that kind of creaminess. You can see as well, since I've poured that other bit in, that there is a bit more haze to it this time. So we'll just have another taste of it and look at the malt base again. Yeah, it must have just kind of settled down a little bit when it's been in the fridge. You can feel it's just that little bit thicker now, and the oaty creaminess really starts to come out even more actually. But yeah, again at the back of that oily bubble, it's got a little bit of that kind of darker, more pungent passion fruit, and then as you gradually move forward, you can feel it does start to become a little bit more kind of creamy in its fruity notes. It's almost, to be honest, this beer is a little bit more kind of, it almost feels a little bit like milkshakey. If I compare this to the European beers that some of the European viewers might have come across, this one is almost a little bit like, it's got the same kind of feel to it as, for example, some of the Ale Farm beers, but it doesn't quite have that almost milkshakey smoothness that some of them have. But milkshakey sweetness rather than smoothness. It definitely has the same smoothness, but just not quite as sweet. I think I'm mixing my words up a little bit here. But this is a lovely, very smooth New England IPA, this one. And the papayas, the pineapple-y notes, maybe even that little bit of apricot-y quality that I was talking about, the way all these fruity flavours come out in this beer is just absolutely beautiful. So massive thumbs up to Treehouse Brewing once again here. I really like that. The further you go into the aftertaste, you can feel a little bit of the biscuity sweetness, some of the oaty creaminess as well, and you've got a little bit of that kind of passion fruity pungency coming off the beer too, and some of the floral aromaticity is there, but you would expect that with the Galaxy hop, in fairness, because it's you know, that it is, I'm sure it's like 15-16% alpha acid Australian hop, so it is a little bit of a beast, that, compared to some of the other ones that you'll come across. But then again, you've got Amarillo and Citra and everything, they're sort of around 12%, but a couple of percent in alpha acid terms can make a big difference to the bitterness of beers and stuff like that. But yeah, in terms of its flavour, a beautiful, beautiful beer, this one. With the mouthfeel, I would say that this beer is at the top end of mid-bodied. Yeah, top end of mid-bodied for this beer. Overall, the carbonation is very, very smooth in this one, and I think it's fair to say that this is a big, creamy, very smooth beer in terms of its overall mouthfeel. It doesn't have the wetness to it that the Julius has. It's definitely more kind of big and creamy. In terms of hoppy bitterness, I think we're talking, I'm torn between saying about 40, I think about 40 IBUs. It could be a little bit more than that. The main thing that's given it the IBUs, you can feel a little bit of that. You can definitely feel a little bit of the nice kind of floral aromatic spice in this one, and that lingers into the aftertaste, and that works out really quite nicely. I have to say, I like that about this beer. It does have a little bit of that kind of hoppy kick to it. So I think about 40 IBUs with this one. The malt base is very, very smooth. The yeasty qualities will be kind of contributing to that as well. But very, very smooth malt base, little touch of sweetness to it, and the fruitiness in this one, it's got a little bit of that darker fruit, but it's also got a little bit of juiciness as well. So I really like how this one goes together, and it gets a massive thumbs up from me, this one. I think this is kind of more, this one is a little bit more of what I expected of Treehouse rather than the Julius before, but there was nothing wrong with the Julius. Like I said, it was just a nice, that was a nice lighter, more sessionable New England IPA. This is a kind of bigger, sort of thicker one if you like, but this is a little bit higher in alcohol than we would normally drink in New England IPAs over here in Europe. It's more, this is sort of somewhere between what we would drink as a regular IPA and what we would have as a double New England IPA, if that makes sense. This one's kind of somewhere in the middle of those two, but a lovely beer nonetheless, and really cool to be able to try this one for you here on the channel. So yeah, let's just leave it at that. This is an awesome beer. And I think I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this one again. I'd love to see what these guys could do with a West Coast IPA as well, on the basis of how good the New England ones are. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This is the Green, a 7.5% New England IPA from Treehouse Brewing Company in Charlton in Massachusetts in America. A lovely beer, and great to be able to review this for you here on the channel. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Treehouse Brewing Company as well, and I'm sure I'll return to these guys at some point in the near future. I do have one more beer to do that you'll see quite soon, but beyond that, hopefully I can get over and visit these guys in 2020. That would be absolutely awesome to do that, and I'll see if I can get some different styles like stouts and stuff to review for you as well, because everyone knows this brewery for the New England IPAs, but it would be cool to talk about how their other styles are as well. But thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Until the next one, Slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål, make sure you check out this beer. Cheers.